Researchers in Turkey now claim they found indisputable evidence that the story of Noah's Ark was not a cautionary tale about the consequences of forsaking God, but a verifiable historical event.
For centuries, Noah's Ark was a legend, etched in scripture, doubted by science. But now, buried beneath a lonely hill in eastern Turkey, something has surfaced. A colossal structure with ship-like dimensions, perfectly symmetrical, hidden for thousands of years.
Mount Ararat, which is the legendary resting place of Noah's Ark, is very close by. So it makes a lot of sense that this could have been the landing site of the Ark, and then this city would have been built by Noah.
And it wasn't found by pastors or prophets. It was uncovered by scientists using advanced ground radar. Is this the final resting place of the Ark? And if it is, what else have we misunderstood? Join us as we look into what scientists found inside Noah's Ark in Turkey that terrified the world. Scientists' discovery of Noah's Ark in Turkey. In June 2025, a team of researchers in eastern Turkey made an announcement that stirred global attention. Deep beneath a hillside near Mount Ararat, they uncovered what appears to be the remains of a massive structure.
He's flying over basically the middle of nowhere when he sees a startling and unusual formation amongst the rocks below, which of course, he photographs.
One that strikingly resembles the dimensions and layout described in the ancient story of Noah's Ark.
There is actually zero archaeological evidence for Noah, an ark, or a flood.
This discovery didn't emerge from legend or religious belief, but from a scientific investigation using ground-penetrating radar, a tool that sends electromagnetic signals into the Earth to reveal what lies beneath. The scans showed something unexpected, a long, symmetrical shape with internal features that appeared engineered, not natural. Now the question is, how sure are the scientists that this is Noah's Ark? By what means did they come to that conclusion? Stay tuned. What you're about to hear will blow your mind. The formation, buried beneath layers of rock and soil, matched the proportions given in the book of Genesis: a length of 300 cubits, a width of 50 cubits, and a height of 30 cubits. These numbers translate roughly to 515 feet long, 85 feet wide, and 49 feet high, dimensions that align almost perfectly with the structure unearthed near the village of Uzungili, close to the Durupinar site. For decades, explorers, scientists, and religious scholars have tried to locate the resting place of the Ark described in the Genesis flood narrative. The Bible states that the Ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, and for many, this pointed directly to the modern Mount Ararat in Turkey. However, despite years of exploration and several high-profile expeditions to the peak itself, no conclusive evidence has ever been recovered there. The Durupinar Formation, located about 20 miles south of Mount Ararat, offers something different. Not a piece of wood or a distant photograph, but a shaped formation embedded in the earth with physical data and measurable structure. The earliest recorded attention to this site dates back to 1959, when Turkish Army Captain İlhan Durupinar noticed the boat-like shape in aerial photographs taken for NATO mapping purposes.
A large rock fell off the side of a mountain, and it got surrounded by rocks that are different hardnesses. In this case, it just happens to be sort of the outline of what we think of as a boat shape.
The feature had sharp edges, a pointed bow, and a consistent shape that immediately drew comparisons to a ship. His findings sparked interest, and later surveys were conducted. However, the site gained broader visibility in the 1980s, largely due to the efforts of Ron Wyatt, a former nurse anesthetist from the United States. Wyatt visited the site numerous times and claimed that it was indeed the remains of Noah's Ark. His conclusions were based on metal detection surveys, ground scans, and the shape of the formation itself. Though controversial and lacking peer-reviewed support at the time, Wyatt's work helped make the Durupinar Formation widely known. What makes the 2025 rediscovery so different is the level of scientific involvement. This time, researchers brought advanced tools and independent verification. Ground-penetrating radar revealed interior compartments inside the structure, evenly spaced voids and chambers aligned along a central corridor, much like the design of an actual ship. These features weren't haphazard or randomly distributed. They showed mathematical regularity, symmetry, and spacing suggestive of deliberate construction. In earlier scans conducted between 2019 and 2023, preliminary data had already hinted at a structured interior, but recent scans went further, revealing what appears to be 3 distinct levels within the structure, consistent with the 3 decks mentioned in Genesis 6, verse 16. Core samples have been taken from the site and are currently under chemical and radiological analysis. Preliminary results suggest the presence of materials not native to the surrounding geology. Some samples contain traces of what could be fossilized wood, while others show signs of organic residue, potentially evidence of biological matter that once existed within the structure. These findings are being reviewed in multiple independent laboratories. While it's still too early to confirm the origin of these materials, their presence adds weight to the claim that this may not be a natural formation. The Durupinar structure sits at the base of Mount Tenderek, a dormant shield volcano in the Ari province of Turkey. Although this location is not the exact peak of Mount Ararat, it lies within the broader range traditionally known as the Mountains of Ararat. In ancient texts, including Assyrian and early Hebrew writings, the term Urartu, translated as Ararat, referred to a broader region that included modern-day eastern Turkey, not just one mountain. This has led many researchers to suggest that the biblical term might not refer to a single peak, but a general highland region. From this view, a landing near Tenderek Mountain would still fit within the ancient understanding of Ararat's geography. One of the leading organizations currently involved in the study is Noah's Ark Scans, co-founded by researcher Andrew Jones. Since 2019, Jones and his team have returned repeatedly to the Durupinar site, working with local Turkish authorities and international scientists. Their investigations include drone imaging, high-resolution mapping, and layered 3D modeling of the structure beneath the surface. These models now offer the clearest visual yet of the formation's layout, internal compartments, and exterior proportions, all matching the general layout described in the Genesis account. Despite its striking resemblance to an enormous ancient vessel, no one is calling this definitive proof of Noah's Ark, at least not yet. Researchers on site insist that the structure must undergo the same rigorous scrutiny as any major archaeological find. Excavation is ongoing, and core samples are being taken for carbon dating and peer-reviewed analysis. Still, the structure's internal layout, its evenly spaced voids, symmetrical layering, and clear geometric outline, has even the skeptics paying close attention. One geophysicist remarked that its form is too precise to be natural.
Well, our goal, it's basically just a loose organization of individuals interested in pursuing scientific work and promoting this site.
Soil studies offer more intrigue. Sediment within the formation differs notably from the surrounding terrain, suggesting the object may not have originated in that spot, but was buried over time by erosion or debris. If true, this could point to a man-made origin. And considering that ships of this magnitude didn't exist in ancient times, at least not according to our history books, the implications could rewrite what we know of early civilizations. Could this discovery be more than coincidence? And if so, how did it get there? Let's dig deeper. Discussions and theories around the discovery of Noah's Ark. Over the years, several theories have surfaced to explain the oddity of the Durupinar site, a boat-shaped formation nestled in the mountains of eastern Turkey. While some believe this may be the final resting place of Noah's Ark, others suggest it's just a coincidence of natural erosion. The core of the debate lies in its location. According to Genesis, the Ark came to rest upon the mountains of Ararat, widely interpreted as modern-day Mount Ararat. Yet Durupanar is situated a few kilometers away on Mount Tenderek. This geographic discrepancy has fueled many alternative theories. One view suggests the Ark may have originally landed on Mount Ararat, but a violent mudslide could have carried it down to its current location over thousands of years. Others argue that the biblical term Ararat may not have referred to a single mountain at all, but rather an ancient region, making Durupanar a plausible candidate without contradicting scripture. These location-based theories remain central to the ongoing discussions. David Allen Deal, a biblical researcher, proposed a bold alternative that challenged the traditional Mount Ararat interpretation altogether. He pointed to ancient texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh, noting that they refer to a mountain called Mashu, or Mesha, which he believed could be the true landing site of the Ark. According to Deal, this mountain, with its twin peaks resembling a gate or wall, aligned more closely with older flood narratives than Ararat. His exploration of the area in the 1990s revealed a surprising number of local place names that seemed to hint at a Noahic connection, names meaning pulled from water or Noah's Zion. While intriguing, these observations lacked physical evidence of the Ark itself. Still, Deal theorized that Noah's family might have dismantled parts of the Ark to build early settlements, explaining why only fragments or altered remnants may remain. Despite its ambition, Deal's Mashu theory has never gained as much traction as the evidence surrounding Durupanar, which continues to attract archaeological attention. Ronald Wyatt, one of the earliest and most vocal proponents of the Durupanar formation, offered his own explanation for the site's displacement from Ararat. He speculated that a catastrophic mudslide may have pushed the Ark to its present position. But Wyatt didn't stop there. His belief in the site's significance was reinforced by his discovery of a peculiar relic nearby. A small stone carved in the shape of a boat, etched with 8 human figures. Wyatt interpreted this as a symbolic memorial of the 8 survivors aboard the Ark: Noah, his wife, their 3 sons, and their sons' wives. In biblical tradition, such stones often marked sacred events or divine encounters, lending cultural credibility to his claim. Wyatt also reported finding metallic objects within the formation, including components with magnesium, titanium, and aluminum, unusual for ancient metallurgy. These he believed were rivets or structural parts of the Ark. Though widely criticized for his lack of formal archaeological credentials, Wyatt's discoveries remain part of the larger debate. Backed by renewed scientific interest, a joint team of Turkish and American researchers conducted more advanced studies at the Durupanar site in the early 2000s, and again more recently. Led by Turkish geologist Faruk Kaya from Ara Ibrahim Chechen University, the team collected nearly 30 core samples of rock and soil from within and around the formation. Laboratory tests revealed something compelling: evidence of human activity in the region dating back to at least 3000 BC, which overlaps with estimated timelines of the biblical flood. But what truly captured the scientific community's attention was the discovery of marine materials and fossilized sea life embedded in the soil. These marine remnants, found deep inland and at high elevation, suggested a massive body of water once covered the area. If verified, it would strongly support flood narratives, not just from the Bible, but from other ancient texts. The findings fueled speculation that this may indeed be the remnants of a vessel meant to survive a global cataclysm. Still, not everyone agrees. Critics of the Durupanar argue that the site's resemblance to a ship is nothing more than pareidolia, a natural formation mistaken for something familiar. They assert that the shape can be explained by typical erosion patterns in sedimentary rock. One notable skeptic is geophysicist Irving Finley, who has dedicated years to examining flood narratives and ancient structures. He contends that despite interesting anomalies, the evidence at Durupanar lacks definitive markers of artificial construction. Finley emphasizes the absence of consistent wood remains, fasteners, or construction elements typical of ancient shipbuilding. He also questions the chemical analysis, arguing that the presence of metallic particles could be naturally occurring or the result of later contamination. Skeptics still argue that visual patterns aren't enough. They want hard, peer-reviewed evidence. To them, the Durapanar site remains a geological coincidence until proven otherwise. But recent discoveries have started to shift the conversation. Marine fossils, oceanic sediments, and signs of ancient human life near the site raise questions that are getting harder to dismiss. Some scientists are now calling for a global research effort, using deeper radar scans, precise carbon dating, and 3D modeling of the structure's interior. There's also a growing call for historians and religious scholars to help interpret the findings through a broader lens. While this may not yet prove the Ark's existence, it has brought renewed seriousness to a long-dismissed mystery. So, how does this story compare to other flood legends from around the world? You're at the edge of your seat, and it's about to get even better. Other cultural narratives of Noah's Ark. One of the most compelling voices in the flood debate is Irving Finkel, a British Assyriologist and expert in ancient Mesopotamian cuneiform. He believes in the flood account, but not in the way the Bible presents it. Instead, he argues that the biblical version is a simplified retelling of much older Sumerian and Babylonian narratives. At the center of Finkel's theory is a 4,000-year-old clay tablet, known as the Ark Tablet, which he spent over 20 years translating. His findings shocked many. According to the tablet, the ark that survived the flood wasn't long and narrow like a boat, but completely round in shape, like a massive circular coracle. Finkel later detailed his findings in a book, where he described this as the most surprising discovery of his entire academic career. The claims captivated religious audiences, puzzled secular historians, and reopened centuries-old questions about how much of the flood account was literal and how much was cultural memory preserved in many forms. Finkel's translation provided measurements, construction methods, and detailed instructions for waterproofing. It also echoed familiar elements, a divine warning, the gathering of animals, and a chosen survivor. While it didn't confirm Noah's Ark as described in Genesis, it pointed to a broader truth. Ancient people across Mesopotamia seem to remember a great flood and a life-saving vessel. Some scholars still doubt its significance, but others see it as supporting evidence that some kind of catastrophe did occur. Archaeological findings have added weight to these stories. At various high altitudes, researchers have discovered ancient marine fossils and seaweed embedded in sediment layers, traces of oceanic presence where no seas exist today. Though not definitive proof of a global flood, these clues suggest ancient floodwaters once reached further than previously assumed. While skeptics maintain their doubts, the consistency of these findings across cultures continues to spark serious interest and ongoing investigation. Curious? Stay tuned. The most interesting part is still ahead. The idea of a cataclysmic flood isn't limited to Mesopotamian or biblical accounts. Cultures from vastly different continents recount similar events. The Epic of Gilgamesh tells of Utnapishtim, a man warned by gods to build a ship and save life before a great deluge. In Hawaiian tradition, a man named Nu escapes a devastating flood in a canoe and lands on a mountaintop. In the Atrahasis epic, dated to the 19th century BCE, humanity is wiped out by a divine flood after a 7-day warning, eerily similar to Noah's timeline. Despite their regional differences, these stories all share key elements: divine judgment, a massive flood, a chosen individual or family, the preservation of animals, and a mountain landing. Such similarities raise the possibility that these are not merely coincidental, but perhaps linked to a single ancient event or shared cultural memory. Whether myth or history, the global pattern of these tales continues to puzzle scholars and inspire believers. Noah's Ark remains a powerful symbol in Christianity, which is why thousands have undertaken private journeys to Mount Ararat, hoping to find evidence of the Ark. But for those unable to travel to Turkey, a different kind of journey exists, one that brings the Ark to life. In Williamstown, Kentucky, a man named Ken Ham brought to reality one of the most ambitious biblical reconstructions ever attempted, a full-size replica of Noah's Ark. Known as the Ark Encounter, this enormous structure was built using the original dimensions given in the book of Genesis, 300 cubits long, 50 wide, and 30 high, translating to approximately 510 feet in length. The vessel is made almost entirely of wood and includes multiple levels that showcase exhibits on how Noah might have lived, cared for animals, and stored food. Adjacent to the Ark is a sprawling theme park designed to bring biblical events to life, drawing over 1.5 million visitors annually. The Ark Encounter attempts to answer questions often raised by critics. How could 8 people manage thousands of animals? Where did the waste go? How was fresh air maintained? The exhibits offer engineering models that present plausible solutions, ventilation systems, food storage areas, and water collection methods, all constructed using ancient building principles. While not archaeological evidence, the replica offers a practical lens through which the Ark story can be visualized. For many visitors, the experience brings the biblical account closer to reality. Still, experts caution that these reconstructions, while educational, remain speculative. The original Ark's existence, they say, requires hard physical proof. Nevertheless, the sheer public interest in these replications highlights how enduring the flood story is, both as myth and symbol. In Genesis 7:20, it is written that the flood waters rose 15 cubits, about 22 feet, above the highest mountains. Some believers interpret this literally, imagining a flood so vast that even today's tallest peaks would have been submerged. This kind of flood, according to some theories, could have caused the extinction of ancient species, including dinosaurs, mythical dragons, or Nephilim. Mainstream science does not support these claims, but such theories continue to circulate. Calculations have been made to estimate how much water would be needed for such a flood, and some suggest it would require the volume of 2 oceans to fall in just 40 days. Critics argue that these numbers defy known natural processes, but proponents respond that the flood was supernatural by nature. The arguments often divide along the lines of belief. Science looks for measurable data, while faith looks for meaning. Skeptics also raise issues regarding the Ark's feasibility. How could one man and his family survive for over 300 days in a sealed vessel with limited air and no modern waste systems? How did thousands of species fit on board? Wouldn't disease or hunger wipe them out? These questions remain unanswered by the historical record. But for millions around the world, the point of the story isn't logistics. It's that someone listened, prepared, and survived when the rest of the world refused to believe. Some theorists have even proposed that the Ark was dismantled after the flood and its timber used to build homes or early infrastructure. Others believe that natural disasters might have destroyed it entirely. And some still hope that one day, beneath the soil of eastern Turkey or beyond, a final piece of wood, fossil, or artifact might close the mystery forever. What other forgotten truths from ancient texts might science uncover next? And if Noah's Ark truly existed, what else from the past might still be buried beneath our feet? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to check out the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.